Documents and spreadsheets. Mankind has been using them in work processes for thousands of years, and they are still the basis of business management. Let's see how we can automate Word documents and Excel spreadsheets.
There are several ways to work with tables in Sherpa RPA, and let's start with the simplest one. The Load into Data Table block from the Excel palette allows you to load Excel table cells values into a variable with a special format, data table. In the File Path property, enter the path to the table file in quotes. If this file is located in a project folder, it is enough to specify just the file name. To work with data table variables, there is a separate palette of blocks, among which is Sort. I want to sort the table by descending values in the score column. To refer to this column in the property, you can specify its sequence number or name. You can also work with the contents of the data table variable using expressions. Let's add the Invoke PowerShell expression block from the main blocks palette. This block allows us to execute expressions like in any other block. In the Data Table Examples tab of the guide, you can find an example of how to get or change a cell value. Table is the name of the variable in which the table is stored. Rows is a function that gets or writes cell values. This function needs two values in square brackets: index of a row and index of a column. Index is like a sequence number, except that it starts with 0 instead of 1. That is, for specifying the second row, it is necessary to specify an index not as 2, but 1. And one more thing is notable. At loading of the table, by default, there is a tick title. It means that the first row with titles is ignored, and row with index 0 becomes the first row with data. So, to refer to this cell, I need to write row index 0, column index 3. This expression now returns the value of the cell, but if you add an equitation sign, you can set the value of this cell. To save the variable to a file, I use the Save from Data Table block and specify the path to the new table file. Let's see how it goes. The table is saved and sorted, and the value of this cell is changed. But all the formatting and design is lost, because the data table format stores only the contents of the cells. To work with an Excel spreadsheet, saving the appearance and formulas, you need to use the Open Document block. In addition to specifying the file path, there are two important properties here. If you have Microsoft Excel installed on the computer where the robot is running, it is recommended to check this box, and then Sherpa RPA will work directly with Excel, and you will be able to see all the changes in the table in real time. If Excel is not installed, uncheck it and Sherpa RPA will use the built-in emulator. If Use COM mode is enabled, you can turn off Display an Excel interface by unchecking the Visibility checkbox. Sherpa RPA can work simultaneously with several tables. To do this, identifiers are assigned to the file and the Excel instance when you open it. In subsequent blocks that work with tables, you need to specify the appropriate identifier so that the actions are applied to the required table. Let's change the value of a cell in the table using the Set Cell Value block. In addition to the reference to the table, we need to specify the sequential number or name of the worksheet, as well as row and column number. Instead of specifying row and column numbers, you can enter the cell address in Excel format here. And finally, the value that we want to write in a cell. To save the table, use the Save Document block, making sure that the correct instances are specified. If you don't fill in the file name field, the original table will be overwritten. I will specify the path to the new file. And testing. The edited table is saved, and the formatting is intact. Word palette and the way the blocks work are very similar to Excel's. Here as well, you first have to open the document, specify the operating mode, and assign the names of instances. Let's move on to practice. I have prepared this document template and I need to create a lot of copies of it filled with information from the table opened earlier. Substitute the name, item name, and save using email as a file name. In this case, I don't care about table formatting, I'm not going to save it, so I use the faster DataTables method. The table is loaded into a variable. Now we need to perform a series of repetitive actions, and as you know from the last lesson, this is a job for the loop block. But for working with data table, there is a special, for each loop, data table block. The loop leaving the row connector will repeat as many times as many rows there are in the table. And on each cycle we will have the row variable, which contains the values of all cells in the row and index of row that is processed. The first step in the loop is to remap the row variable for convenience. It is not necessary to do this, but it will make the workflow clearer. Using the assign value to variable block, I create new variables for the values of the name, email, and item cells. And now I can use them instead of the row variable and indexes. The next step is to open the template, and using two blocks of replace text, we replaced placeholders with the contents of the variables name and item. Then we use the save block. As a file name, the variable email with addition of the file extension. I didn't specify the full path to the file, so the documents will be created in the project folder. The last block in the loop is closing the template document in order to open its original version in the beginning of the loop. If you don't close the document before reopening it, Word won't let you make changes to it. Now we're closing the loop and checking the work. All files are created.